I know this may sound crazy, but no, the Panthers shouldn't bench Bryce Young after Sunday's loss in New Orleans. Why? Well, I'll tell you right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe or follow the show for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Wednesdays throughout the regular season, meaning tomorrow, I'll be right here answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. All you got to do is either at me or DM me. And of course, feel free to follow me on Twitter at Julian Council to get your questions in for tomorrow's edition of the weekly Wednesday mailbag right here on Locked On Panthers. It has been an avalanche of bad news for the Panthers as the season has begun. A 47-10 loss on Sunday in New Orleans, followed up by the news that Derrick may miss the rest of the season with a meniscus tear. Dave Canales, Carolina Panthers head coach, gave an update on Monday afternoon when speaking to the media. We'll talk about that here momentarily, but let's focus on the key storyline heading out of that week one loss in New Orleans, and it is Bryce Young. People are mad as hell at how Bryce Young played. And let me preface this conversation by saying this. I am not here on today's show to defend Bryce Young. He was terrible yesterday. That is a fact. It is not an opinion. He was bad. I agree with you that Bryce Young was bad. Where I don't agree with you is that the Panthers need to move on from Bryce Young after week one of this experiment with Dave Canales. They got rid of Reich, they got rid of Fitterer, they got rid of that entire offensive coaching staff and brought in Canales, hired Dan Morgan from down the hall and brought in these players to see if Bryce Young is the guy. So after 1 week, I don't understand. He played 16 games last year, Julian. It didn't look all that great outside of the game against Houston and Atlanta. It's not like the numbers were all that great in those games, and he was excellent against Green Bay. But outside of that, left a lot to be desired. Yes, I understand. And I said this to y'all yesterday. Like, we cannot necessarily look at all this in a vacuum, but we can be adults here, right? And understand, I hope, that moving on from Bryce Young after the first game with Dave Canales, who was brought in here to work with Bryce Young and do what he did for Geno and Baker for Bryce, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to hire that coach and go through all this trouble this offseason to help Bryce Young, then to say, actually, Bryce, never mind, you're done. We're going to Andy Dalton. That doesn't make any sense at all. This organization did not swap a 2023 first-round pick to get up to number one overall. They did not send a 2023 second that year that they got from the Christian McCaffrey trade. They did not send a number one overall pick in this past year's draft and a second-round pick next year, and DJ Moore to start Andy Dalton on Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers. They didn't even do all of that to have Jack Plummer be the starter on Sunday. They did all that to get Bryce Young and for Bryce Young to be the guy. And so far, no. He has not shown anything really. He has shown very little, but he has not shown nearly enough. And that's putting it lightly that he is the guy in Carolina. I agree with you there. CJ Stroud looked good again yesterday. He was excellent last year. Like, clearly that guy's a dude. We all understand that, okay? But we can focus in here locally at Bryce in this organization, this team, and see the failings from a year ago that maybe played into how he played yesterday. And you're going to say that's an excuse, but maybe the man's broken. That's possible. But also, maybe the guys just got to understand that he had time in the pocket. Then when I look back at Pro Football Focus, which is just a piece of the puzzle, you watch the games, you can go back and look at the advanced stats. Pro Football Focus had 4 of the Panthers offensive linemen among the highest graded players on the offense in that game on Sunday. Looking at NFL Next Gen stats, it seemed like guys were open and watching the game as well. Deontay Johnson was open on a ball that Bryce Young overthrew on a 3rd and long. Adam Thielen was open on a ball that Bryce Young overthrew that was intercepted. There were opportunities for plays to be made, and he missed them. He wasn't under constant siege like he was last year. His receivers weren't completely locked up all afternoon like we saw last year. There were opportunities to win in the pass game, and Bryce Young lost in the pass game. And effectively, the Panthers lost that game on offense, on defense, and in special teams. But moving off of Bryce Young after 1 week doesn't make any sense at all. Like, that's the lack of patience that got us where we're at right now. They moved on from Cam Newton. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater. After less than a season, David Tepper was done. They move on. That brings in Sam Darnold. Darnold's no good. Tepper's done again. You're done. That brings in Baker Mayfield, who was brought in way too late to reasonably expect that he was going to have any sort of success at all. And they have a faux quarterback competition. And then after 5 weeks, all right, Baker's hurt. He's no good. We got to move on. It's not like they've ever allowed anything to marinate, any sort of development, any sort of consistency, stability here in Carolina. And I understand that, yes, Bryce Young has to earn that he has to play well for the Panthers to be willing to be patient. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you, the fan, to be patient, because it certainly is justifiable to be as pissed off as you are based off of having to go through Teddy and Sam and Baker and a little bit of PJ Walker mixed into there too. I totally understand that. And with Tepper, or rather Canales, is giving you the whole rundown of it's going to take some time for us to find who we are, to be us, and to get there, you don't want to hear it. Because you heard the same thing from Frank Reich. You heard the same thing from Matt Rule. You heard about Rome being built in a day, not being built in a day by David Tepper. You heard about Jay-Z, 7 years until he became an overnight success. You heard all of that. You want to hear about, we're going to find us eventually. It's our journey to finding us. No, you want to see it right now. And you want to see Bryce Young playing better football. You want to see your offensive line road grading and protecting, which they didn't road grade. And they did have a little issues on the outside, I guess, sometimes, where Ike Ekwonu gave up 4 pressures. The rest of the offensive linemen combined gave up 3 in that game. He has to be better. Understand that. But it wasn't like we saw last year where Bryce had no time at all. You want to see the playmakers making plays. Didn't get a lot of opportunities to make plays yesterday because the quarterback did not deliver the ball on time and accurate. That's a problem. So, yeah, Bryce Young was bad. But are they going to move on after 1 week? No, that makes no sense at all. That is asinine. Be upset. Totally get it. But, guys, Andy Dalton, you're down that bad. You want Andy Dalton to be the quarterback? I can understand last year where it probably should have been Andy Dalton for a large portion of that season, considering all the factors that led to Bryce Young and the Panthers looking terrible last year. Totally get it. This year, after getting all that experience, after changing offensive coaching staff, bringing in offensive linemen, bringing in more weapons on the outside, no. They got to see if the kid can play. And you probably don't think the kid can play. I know my dad called me on Sunday night. He doesn't believe, doesn't think it's ever going to happen. And I'm sure plenty of you were there already, but are there now. There were probably believers going into Sunday at 1 o'clock. And then once we got to Sunday at 1:13, they were believers no more. Totally get that. But they have to see what Bryce Young can do moving forward. They can't give up on him right now like you would. And if you think the season's going to be salvaged by Andy Dalton, have you watched the defense play? You know Derrick Brown might not play the rest of the season, y'all. So I don't really know what bringing in Andy Dalton's going to accomplish other than he's not Bryce Young. He's the backup quarterback. Like, I don't get it. He's on his way out the league. The Panthers do not have Andy Dalton in their future plans. It would make more sense, honestly, to put in Jack Plummer, who is a rookie, who has been here and has been developing under this coaching staff. He went from looking god-awful week 1 to looking okay, better, but still, that stinks. Week 2 against the Jets to where week 3 in the preseason, okay. Maybe you got something here in Jack Plummer as a potential emergency third quarterback or backup one day. it would make way more sense to go to him, as he at least has a potential future in the NFL based off of his age. Where Andy Dalton, his time is come and gone, y'all. Let's be serious. If you want to talk about options, let's not talk about one that's not going to be here next year in Andy Dalton. So no, they don't need to move on from Bryce Young today. They don't need to do it next week or in 5 weeks from now, unless it gets to the point where, and I brought this up on the show yesterday when reacting to all that happened in that loss. I brought up a situation in New York 2 years ago with Zach Wilson. He was terrible. And the Jets had a game against the Patriots where the offense scored 3 points and the defense gave up 3 points. And the only reason they lost was because of a punt return right there at the end of regulation that New England took back and won the game off of. And then after the game, Zach Wilson was asked, do you think you let the team down? He said, no. Right then and there, he lost the locker room. If Bryce Young continues to play like this and the Panthers are in a situation where he goes up there in the podium and says no, which I can't ever see that happening, he says all the right things, then sure. But also understand this. At that point in time, the Jets were 6-4. They were thinking that the only thing that's holding us back from being a playoff team is Zach Wilson. Bryce Young ain't holding them back from being a playoff team. It's the entirety of this organization, its operation, that's holding him back from potentially being a playoff team this year. It's the offense, it's the defense, it's the special teams, it's all of it. So I don't think there's going to be a situation like the one 2 years ago in New York with Bryce Young or with Zach Wilson comparatively with Bryce Young. I don't see how there's going to be any sort of similar situation where it's like, yeah, you got to move on. Because Andy's not the future. Plummer's probably not either. You got 17 games figured out, 16 more to go, and we'll see. But right now, no, don't be ridiculous. He needs to play. All right, Dave Canales, he spoke to the media after watching the film because coaches cannot answer questions at all until they see the film. And what did he see? Well, he saw a pretty big disconnect, and we'll talk about what that disconnect was on Sunday in that 47-10 loss to New Orleans right here on Locked On Panthers. Men, real talk. The only thing worse than losing your hair is waiting forever for it to grow back. That's why you need Hims, and you can start seeing your hair grow back in as little as 3 to 6 months. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work all from the comfort of your couch. They offer personalized chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatment options so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, so if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/LockedOnNFL. That's HIMS.com/LockedOnNFL for a personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/LockedOnNFL. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Dave Canales' debut as the Carolina Panthers head coach got off to a terrible start as the Panthers were thoroughly embarrassed 47-10 on the road in New Orleans on Sunday afternoon. Canales spoke with the media on Monday afternoon, saying the message to his team and staff heading in to the Week 2 home opener against the Los Angeles Chargers is, let's not make it about anything else but the ball. Let's get our X's and O's, let's talk fundamentals, and let's improve for next week. Yes. The ball. You got to take care of it. The X's and O's, got to tighten that up. The fundamentals, they need to at least exist. And yes, improvement. That must happen for the Panthers if they're going to be competitive at all against the Chargers. And we're right back where we were a week ago heading into the season, not necessarily with the optimism that comes with a new season, but with the hope of, can they just be competent? I asked y'all what your expectations were on Twitter for the season. You gave me numbers, but what I really saw was Just be competent. Please be competent. And did not see that week 1. Maybe we see it in week 2. Now, one of the things we will not see in week 2, unfortunately, is Derrick Brown there on the Panthers defensive line. Dave Canales did provide an update with the status of Derrick Brown. Now, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network came out and said on Monday that Brown has a meniscus injury, could potentially be season ending, and we'll find out what the case is there. So when does this occur? Because he played the entire game yesterday, and I never saw Derrick Brown go out and speak to a trainer. Apparently, this is something where last night on Sunday night, he was sore, wasn't a big deal, but then he woke up on Monday and was in a lot more pain. The Panthers said, go get an MRI, and that's when they found that there is a tear to the meniscus. That is something that Dave Canales has confirmed. They're looking to get a second opinion. And once they get that second opinion, they'll know what the timeline is. Now, Derrick Brown, of course, wants to play, wants to find the best way to get him back faster or potentially, I guess, stay out there if that's even a possibility. Don't think it would be with a torn meniscus, but I suppose it's always an option maybe if it doesn't do further damage. I'm not a doctor, so we'll find out what the situation is there. But right now, it's torn meniscus. He's waiting to get a second opinion. Once they get the second opinion, then Canales will update us in terms of when or how long he'll be out, if he'll be back at all. But just based off of what I saw on Sunday, if it's going to be something he stays out for, 8 weeks at this point in time, the season may already be over. And if that's the case, why bring back Derrick Brown, somebody who you made a significant financial investment in this offseason, 4 years, $96 million. That contract does not kick in until the 2025 season. So the Panthers can wait. I understand that they want to get their best player on defense out there, especially after defense got gashed by the Saints on Sunday. 9 straight drives they scored. Unbelievable. As far as replacing Derrick Brown, I've been asked by some of y'all who's going to replace Derrick Brown. Is there anybody out there? It's like, no, there is nobody out there who has Derrick Brown's talent. Because if they were, they would be on a roster. So let's be serious here. What they're going to do is count on the guys that are in-house, and it's potential they can sign someone off their practice squad. They can make a trade if they want to do that. I just don't think they're making a trade week 1 or week 2, I guess, to go out there and find a starting defensive tackle. They're not going to find someone of Derrick Brown's caliber, nor would a team give them somebody of Derrick Brown's caliber. Dave Canales said they're going to be counting on Jaden Peavy, who actually was the 3rd highest graded defender at a 70.8 rating, according to PFF. On Sunday, he only played 12 snaps, though. I expect that to go up now with Derrick Brown out. LeBron Ray, who was missing he did miss a lot of time during training camp and all the preseason of an illness. He's back. He was inactive on Sunday. He's somebody that they'll go to. And also Nick Thurman, who did play a good bit on Sunday in that loss. Those are 3 guys. A'Shawn Robinson was the highest graded defender. I thought when I spoke to y'all during that emergency episode talking about Derrick Brown, his injury and the impact, I thought that A'Shawn Robinson had played well. Finally got the PFF grades that confirmed what I saw. It does not always do that. It's just one piece of the puzzle. As I continue to tell y'all, it's not the gospel. It's something I like to lean on, just to look at some of the numbers and kind of maybe reaffirm biases that I have, or maybe dispel some of the things I thought I saw. It certainly reaffirmed what I thought I saw, that A'Shawn Robinson actually kind of did play a good game. And it's hard to think that anyone played a good game based off of how poorly that defense played and how much yards they gave up. Derrick Brown actually did not grade out very well at all in that game, but we know who Derrick Brown is. So those 3, along with A'Shawn Robinson and Shai Tuttle, who was the lowest graded defender, by the way, on the Panthers team, he's got to step up. He has been atrocious for them since he came here to Carolina. What was the disconnect? That's a question that Mike K asked. What was the disconnect, Dave? And why did your team play so bad? Communication and fundamentals. That's what Dave Canales said. Playing proper technique throughout the game. You saw it sometimes, didn't see it other times. Just that was an issue. So got to get the communication down. Got to work on fundamentals. Fundamentals where these are professionals. You would think they would have that down, but clearly they need better coaching and the communication needs to be better. And that's something that not playing the preseason certainly had an impact on that. And yes, New Orleans, it is a very loud stadium. As far as the run game, I brought this up when looking at that goal line sequence. At no point during those 4 plays, good thing they scored a touchdown, but at no point did Dave Canales call for a design run. And Bashtai Hurt of Carolina Blitz asked him, do you believe you were committed to the run? And he said that he believes that they committed themselves to the run as much as they wanted to. Okay. I disagree. When you look at a game where I believe Chuba Hubbard had 6 carries and Miles Sanders had, I think, 5, and the Panthers overall only had a 40% rushing success rate against New Orleans. And go back to last year, the Bucs had the worst rushing success rate in the NFL with Dave Canales as their offensive play caller. So that's an area where you talked about being stubborn about running the football. I think they're set up to be able to do that. Did not seem to be all that stubborn. I understand the game dictates changes and getting down 17-0 pretty quickly. That is going to change up what your plan was going to the game, especially if you want to establish the run. But a big question, too, why come out on the first play after saying you want to run the ball? Why come up first play and throw the football? And that, of course, leads to an interception, and it was all downhill from there. And sack issues, too. We saw it 3 straight times. Alontae Taylor, same nickel blitz, came flying in, sack Bryce Young. I don't know if I said this on the show here or on Bleacher Report. Like, I'm on so many different outlets on Sundays. I'm not sitting here bragging, but I go and talk certain different places. I can't even remember what I said where. But I do know on the news with Nick Carbonia on WCNC, the NBC affiliate here in Charlotte, I did talk about how those sacks, that's on the coach. And Dave Canales did say it was on the coach. He said, we had a scheme. They schemed us better. That's coaching. We have to be able to put our guys in a better situation in that regard. So, yeah, he got out-schemed by Dennis Allen. Pretty clear. Your quarterback didn't play well, but that's a situation where how the first time, okay, you got me. The second time, yeah, shame on me. The third time, just embarrassing for that to keep happening. And overall, he said, we lost in all the critical areas. Turned the ball over 3 times. He does not count the Saints' muff punt as a turnover since the game, in his words, was lost by that point. The Saints had 12 explosive plays on the Panthers defense, where the Panthers offense only was able to muster 4. The Panthers were 2 of 13 on 3rd and 4th down. The Saints overall were 7 of 13. Never had to face 4th down that they wanted to go for. The Panthers won 1 for 2 in the red zone. The Saints were 4 for 4. And he said, quote, if you win just one of these critical areas, you have a really good chance of winning. If you lose all of them, that's when it gets lopsided. And buddy, did it get lopsided on Sunday as Panthers falls 47-10 and now move on and think about having any sort of pride and respect for themselves in the game and face the Los Angeles Chargers, now led by Jim Harbaugh, on Sunday here in Uptown Charlotte. I always give you my keys to victory, maybe changing that up here this upcoming week, as don't know there's going to be very many victories if they keep playing how they played. Want to review some of those and also a few more things I want to hit on. Some of the positives from the game. I never want to have a game, whether it's a win or a loss, but especially a loss, of course, and not go over the positives, or if there were some negatives, just point everything out. So I want to go over some positives that I saw from the game, and then some other notes also that I have that I want to empty out before we move on and really focus on what they're going to do about Bryce Young, what they're going to do about Derrick Brown, really focus on the Chargers coming to town this week. So that coming up here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. It's that easy, y'all. Everyone has a Gmail at this point in time. Get a Gmail, get a working credit or debit card, and you're good to go. $5. If you want to bet $5 on a college game, on a team you know that's going to win, like on Georgia, go ahead and do it. They're going to beat Kentucky this Saturday. Go bet on that. If you want to bet against your favorite team, the Panthers, to lose, well, you'll probably win, and you get 3-week free trial to watch other teams out of market. So go ahead and do that. FanDuel is incredible. All you got to do is just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. On Fridays, I like to do my keys to victory, and I like to go back on the Mondays and review those keys, whether they came to fruition or if they did not. Either way, I like to go back and just kind of go over some things that I maybe did not touch on when reviewing the game following the game live on YouTube, which is where I am, following every Carolina Panthers game live on the Locked On Panthers YouTube channel. So if you are not a subscriber over on the YouTube channel, please go over there and click that subscribe button and check out any of the live shows. If you miss a live show, it's okay. It's going to be right there on YouTube for you. And also, of course, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. But the key number one was to stay ahead of schedule. I was very skeptical of the Panthers passing game heading into this game against New Orleans. And I was right to be skeptical because the quarterback did not play well. The offensive line was not the issue. The receivers, I do not believe, were the issue. It was very clearly Bryce Young. As we all know, the Panthers, I charted it, they were 1 of 10 on third down. Looked at every single third down in this game. 3rd and 6 to open up the game after the Bryce Young interception. Bryce missed Deontay Johnson. He was open. Just a bad throw there. 3rd and 8. Bryce Young converted. Really good throw to Adam Thielen. 3rd and 11. It was previously 3rd and 1, but JT Sanders, rookie out of Texas, who was starting because Ian Thomas is on IR and Tommy Trimble is still dealing with a hamstring. He was called for holding. That brought it back to 3rd and 11. That was the first time that Dennis Allen sent that blitz by Alontae Taylor. And, of course, he sacked Bryce Young. 3rd and 6 later on, Bryce Young was sacked again by Alontae Taylor. So back-to-back, 3rd and longs. And they don't pick up the blitz. Embarrassing. 3rd and 17 was 3rd and 12, but there was a delay of game on Bryce Young. Bryce Young overthrows Adam Thielen. That's picked off. Just a comedy of errors. 3rd and goal. Incomplete pass to Deontay Johnson. They did score on the next play. A Bryce Young run. 3rd and 8. Bryce Young was sacked yet again by Alontae Taylor. 3rd and 6. Bryce Young missed Xavier Legette on a fade route to the end zone. And 3rd and 5. Bryce Young incomplete to Jonathan Mingo. So only one time did they convert or even complete a pass. And that was Adam Thielen on the 3rd drive of the game, a 3rd and 8 that they were able to convert. So yes, very embarrassing for the Panthers on 3rd down as far as their offense. And I actually looked at this. Pro Football Reference puts out their success rate stats. Bryce Young's passing success rate on Sunday was a 32.4. Shockingly, was not the lowest in the NFL. Caleb Williams, a rookie up in Chicago, was worse, just barely. He was a 32.2. First game, by the way. Will Levis, he was also in that game. He had just some boneheaded decisions that he made. He was worse than Bryce. Daniel Jones was worse than Bryce in New York, and that calamity as Sam Darnold goes in there and torches the Giants. Bo Nix on the road in Seattle, he also was worse. And then Deshaun Watson. Of all the bad decisions David Tepper's made about quarterbacks here in Carolina, the one good one he's certainly made, and I'm still leaving the door open for Bryce Young to figure it out, but the one that is undeniably a good decision was that he balked at the idea of giving that nasty-ass man Deshaun Watson 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed. So there you go. And for what it's worth, Baker Mayfield led the NFL passing success rate on Sunday, 61.3. And Mahomes was all the way back there at 53.3. So a massive gap between Baker Mayfield and the rest of the field. Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, then Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels filled out the top 5. Hurts and Daniels were tied at 51.0. Daniels making his first career start in that loss to Mayfield and the Buccaneers. Number 2, I said to make Derek Carr beat you. That did not work out. Derek Carr was excellent in that game, 19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an 85.1 QBR, 142.5 passer rating. Played well. Tip of the cap, and Derek Carr is now 5-0 against the Panthers. 1-2 with the Raiders, and he won 2 last year, 1 again. So I guess Derek Carr's Panthers kryptonite. Never thought that would be a words I'd say coming out of my mouth, if I can even say them. Number 3, get the football right. We know they didn't get it right. 3 turnovers, 6 penalties for 80 yards. Mingo couldn't hold on the ball. Bryce couldn't do anything right. The critical areas where clearly Canales is looking at turnovers. He's looking at explosive plays. He's looking at 3rd and 4th down. He's looking at the red zone. The Panthers lost in all 4 of those areas, and that's how the game became lopsided on Sunday, among other reasons. Now, we've talked a lot about the negatives. Let's get to some positives from the game on Sunday. Talking about this on Friday, questions heading into that game. I wondered what role would Xavier Legette play. He had not been healthy dating back to the hamstring injury he suffered back during the spring during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Then he had the foot scare early on during training camp and hadn't been a big part of the first team, had been behind Mingo and Terrace Marshall when he was here. So I wondered, based on everything we had seen, what role would he play? Well, Jonathan Mingo fumbled the ball. And after that, we saw Xavier Legette really take over as that wide receiver 3, as that door was far more than ajar throughout the entirety of the preseason for Xavier Legette to finally step in there and take over that role. He had 4 receptions, 35 yards, and only had a 1.76 yard separation. League average is 2.96 yards. So that's going to be an area that we know he's going to have to work on, but still be able to make some plays and to hold on to the football. Credit to Xavier Legette. So good to see. And yeah, Mingo fumbled once, and in the other one, I don't think it's technically was charged as a fumble, but the guy didn't hold on to the football. The Panthers, they can't keep trotting him out there over Xavier Legette, especially this coaching staff at this point in time. Mike Jackson hasn't been here long, but he played well as that cornerback too, opposite of J.C. Horn. Actually outplayed J.C., had 7 tackles, 1 pass breakup. He had a team best 72.1 coverage grade according to PFF in that game. Echo Leota was not the best against the run. His run blocking or run defense grade was better than I thought it was going to be. It was right around in the 60s, but he started outside linebacker. That was a question that we had. Who would start there? It was him over DJ Johnson, which does not bode well again for the long-term prospects for DJ Johnson here in Carolina. But he had 4 tackles. Echo Leota did 3 tackles for loss and a sack. So hat tip to him. His first career start in the NFL. Some other notes before we get out of here. Jordan Matthews and Jadavion Sanders both did not grade out well at tight end. I know a lot of people were happy to not have Ian Thomas out there, but Ian Thomas is a better just pure tight end right now than Jordan Matthews and Jadavion Sanders are at this point in time. And Matthews is a guy who played receiver, who's transitioned to tight end. So I understand that. Sanders, first game of his NFL career, understand that. But I feel like they were going to miss something in the run game, and it kind of did happen with the tight ends not being available, with Trimble also being out. So they need Tommy Trimble back. Matthews had a 47.5 grade. Sanders had a 47.4 grade. If you watched, he had one of those holding calls that brought back a first down. And then the Panthers ended up on that 3rd and 11, ended up getting sacked by Alontae Taylor. And then there's another clip out there where Chase Young just absolutely baptizes Sanders. So I'm not here to criticize the young man. Like, he's got time. It's going to be okay. But yeah, they did not play well. And this illustrates why the Panthers need Ian Thomas and Tommy Trimble to be available so they can have 2 like true tight ends, and Sanders is a true tight end as well, but Matthews is not, which is still a great story. Love that he's here, but they need their 2 experienced tight ends to be out there. Like, Matthews doesn't have experience in the league at that position. Same thing with Sanders because he just got here. Trimble, Thomas, they do. So they got to get them back, especially Trimble, this Sunday. Eddie Pinheiro, he had a 40-yard field goal at the end of the first half, and that ended the Panthers' 9-quarter scoring drought. That was the longest streak by an NFL team in 24 seasons since the 2000 Cincinnati Bengals. So glad that ended, did not carry over to 10 quarters. And in the Panthers, 30-3 halftime deficit is the second largest for a coach in his first career game since 2000. Brian Flores trailed 42-10 in his first game with the Dolphins against the Ravens back in 2019. And it did not work out for Flores there. So hopefully that's not the case. I don't think that we're going to have Canales out here saying the kind of junk that Flores was saying to Bryce Young. So I think we're good there as far as other players going to like the coach. Yeah, I think the players going to be totally fine with the coach and not going to move on from him because of that. So there it is. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly. Again, y'all, subscribe and follow the show for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where tomorrow I'm back with the weekly Wednesday mailbag, answering your Wednesday mailbag questions, either at me or DM me on Twitter at Julian Council to get those questions into me right now. Do not delay. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole as always, and forever keep pounding. And I'll talk to y'all on Wednesday.